These days, it's not uncommon that students have a Chromebook or similar by their side at all times in class. And technology isn't just useful in education, it's a must. School is where students can get the best chance to learn how to navigate the digital world responsibly. The Chromebooks are meant to be an educational tool, and in many ways they are, but let's be honest, devices can also be a major distraction. We have messaging, gaming, AI-powered cheating. Keeping students focused on learning isn't easy. That's where our application comes in. Trellson gives the teacher control over what the students can access on their Chromebook. Trellson blocks everything else, thereby preventing cheating and cutting out digital distractions. In this demo, I will show you two key ways that Trellson can be used in a classroom. First off, we have secure digital exams, where students complete assessments in a fully controlled environment. Second, we have focus rooms, which help students stay on task during regular classwork by removing digital distractions. Let's dive in. First off, I thought that I would show you how exams work in Trellson, and we'll start off by looking at the teacher perspective. So what you can see on my screen here is the teacher being logged into Trellson, and you can see that I have two already pre-prepared exams here, and we will only look at one of them, because in this demo I won't deep dive into anything. I will just show you the value of Trellson in a basic overview. So I thought that we would take a look at the math exam that I have here. Trellson can of course be used with any topic, but the math topic is really exciting if you ask me. So first off, we have the title of the exam. In this case, I just called it Math Exam Example. And secondly, we have a start and deadline. And this kind of dictates when the exam will be visible towards the students once they log into Trellson. So unless it's not at 9 a.m. the 18th of February 2025, the students won't see it. So here's my deadline and my start time. So I can set that to anything I want, and during this time, this exam will be available to the students. Second off, we have the pin to start, to resume, to submit. These are optional, except for the resume pin. And this resume pin is in case the student would leave the exam, for say to go to the bathroom or anything, or maybe the battery dies on the computer. Then they have to enter the pin to resume as a security measure for not being able to go in and out of the exam without the teacher noticing it. And we also have more settings here that are optional. I won't show you these in detail, but we have, for example, some accessibility tools that can be activated for all students in this exam. I can turn off or on notifications if a student leaves the exam. But here we have 5 different tabs that are important. We have the student list, we have the teacher list, we have the module list, the resource list, and the event list. Let's look at the student list to begin with. Here is where I tell the system which students are supposed to take this exam. And in this case, we only have one student that will take this exam, and that's me. But usually there are a bunch in here, right? So I can import students using either email addresses one by one, or I can import them from a classroom course. So we will just fetch everyone from that specific course and add them to this exam. That's how you add students to the exam. When the exam is ongoing, I can see here which students have opened the exam or are writing, and I can also preview and take a look at how far they've come in this exam. Are they writing? Are they answering the questions? Or maybe do I have to help them in some way? I can also see for how long they've been in this assignment, and I can set some customizations. So if this student, for example, needs a blue background instead of white when they're reading, I can add that. Here you can also set spell check, basic calculators, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, anything that can help the students conduct the exam that are allowed and necessary. So when I'm satisfied with the customization set on this student, I just click on Save. Before we head over to the Teachers tab and I explain that to you, I want to show you this little eye icon. If I click on there, you can see that I, as a teacher, have already inputted some instructions towards the students. And this will appear in the student view when they log into this exam. And here you can input anything you want, just basic instructions on how to conduct the exam. Let's head over to the Teachers tab. Here, I can invite other teachers to collaborate with me on this exam. I can either choose to add them and give them full access to the exam so that they can edit all the things that I can do as the owner of the exam, or I can invite them with only grading access. And only grading access is basically they will be doing the assessment of the student submissions and not be able to edit the content of the exam. But for now, it will just be me in this exam. Let's head over to the modules. And what are modules, you might say? Well, modules is the part where the students will actually be doing something. So we're telling the students to either write a document or answer questions in a form. And in this case, I've already inputted one writing space, which is basically a document, and also some form questions. So I thought that we would take a look at the writing space to begin with. This is, as I said, a math exam. So they will be solving equations in here and inputting their final answer and the explanation to how they got to that final answer. Whenever I'm satisfied with the template, I just click on Save. And once my students open the exam, they will all get exactly the same writing document that they can work with. Second off, we have the form. I will show you a preview that you can use as a teacher once you've created the form. Here, we start off with an image, just setting the mood for this algebra form questions. And then we head over to the question, what is the value of x? And here the students have to input the value of x. I happen to know that it's 3, so let's just input that. So as you can see here, this is another type of question. This is a multiple choice question. So here I'm asking what the value of x is in this equation that is entered below, and I can choose the correct value. This time I don't remember what's the correct value, so I'll just choose something. And here we have some more options. We have drag and drop, for example, where I can match a solution with an equation. This is basically what it looks like. And if I would like to edit this form, I can do so. And I can continue to add more questions. And if I would like to edit this form, I just click on the pen here, and I will get the option to add more questions. And we have a bunch of different question types. You can see them here. We have multiple choice, checkboxes, drop down, etc. The list goes on, and even programming and audio recording, which is something that has become really popular. So if I would like to, I can also set some auto grading on this, and which I've already done. And the only thing I have to do is to scroll up and click on this cog. And I click on automatic grading that has already been set. And I can tell the system, okay, which of these options are the correct ones. So let's say I click on set score. In this case, we'll guess that x equals 11.5 is the correct option. And that gives 1 point. This is great because I don't have to spend time on actually grading the answers from the students in this case, since we already know which answer is correct. So the system will do it for me once the students have submitted. I feel happy, so I'm clicking Save. Now we know what the students will do in this exam. They're going to write in a writing space and they're going to answer questions in a form. Let's hop over to resources. Here you can see that I have added one PDF, a YouTube video, and a GeoGebra online calculator. This is the only resources that my students will be allowed to use during this exam. Everything else on the device is blocked. If I want to add a resource, I just click on Add, and then I can choose if it's a document or media I want to input here, or if it's a web resource. And then I can just paste the link to any website I want, or perhaps add a GeoGebra calculator. What you can do here in the Resource tab is provide specific students with access to a resource, meaning not allowing every single student in the class to use that resource during the exam. If I would like to just make this GeoGebra online calculator available to one student, I go on the cog, and then I click on Restrict Access and select the student that I want that should have access to this one. Now you can see that the status here changed. It says activated for 1 out of 1 students instead of activated for everyone. Last off, we have the Event tab. This is where all of the events will be registered during the exam. And an event can be that a student has entered the exam, or maybe submitted the exam, or left the exam without submitting. And this is something that you can look at in real time during the exam, or you can take a look afterwards if you want to know what has been going on during the exam. Now I am ready to show you how Trelson works as a student. So I will switch the device to a student device instead of my teacher one here. I'm logged out of my Chromebook and I have this little app library and where we can find the Trelson Kiosk app. And this is the environment that locks down the student's regular access to the device. And we wait a little bit for it to launch. What I have to do now is log in with my Google account. And that's the same case for teachers as well as students. They don't need additional accounts to work with Trelson. So we click on login and I have to input my details. All right, I'm logged in as a student on my student device, and I can't access anything that I'm used to being able to access, browsing, YouTube, whatever that might be. I can only access Trelson once I'm in this environment. And if I want to start the exam, I click on open, and I will be required to enter the PIN code that the teacher has set upon creating the exam. And boom, we're in. Here we go. We can see instructions to begin with. And this is something that always pops up if you have, as a teacher, entered any instructions. I can minimize it. I can open it, reopen it whenever I want. And the first thing that we see here is the writing space. So this is the document that the students will be writing in and that the teacher has put a template in. So let's say that I would like to provide the final answer here. I can just say 3. And if I want to show my solution process, I can use our math type editor and I can display how my thought process have been. Now I'm just writing something, whatever, to show you how this works. And I click on insert and then I have my explanation there. Here the students can format everything. They can switch which font they want to use and do anything that you could more or less in a Google document, without any of the support functions like getting the help to write something, which exists in the Google Documents. And for this student, the teacher has activated text-to-speech and speech-to-text. And I want to show you quickly how that works. So if I want text-to-speech, I just mark the sentence that I want to have read out loud, and I click on the text-to-speech guide here. And I get the option to play this specific part. So I click on play.
Explanation. Provide an explanation of your solution process here.
There we go. If I want to use the speech to text, I click on this little microphone and I click on start speech to text. So here I can tell the system what I want it to write for me. Dot. Something like that. Then we have to stop the speech to text, otherwise it will transcribe me forever. It works perfect. So those are some examples of accessibility tools that we provide inside Trelson. Now we have taken a look at the document that the students will be writing in. We can also check the form questions. And this you already saw when we were in the teacher app. But here they can answer what is the value of X, they can choose their preferred solutions, etc. So this is just like a Google form. If I would like to, I can go to the PDF that my teacher has provided me with, which is an algebraic formula sheet. And parts of this I can also get read out loud using this function. And we also have a YouTube video that the students can watch. And the great thing about a YouTube video inside this locked environment is that the students cannot head over to another YouTube. They can't browse YouTube and watch any video. They're restricted to only this video. And if they'd like to, they can watch the video whilst they're writing in their document, for example. To do that, they use the split view function, like that. And if I want to, I can drag this one so that they match a little bit better, and I can look at the YouTube video whilst I'm writing. Or maybe I want to have the GeoGebra calculator at the right-hand side and the document on the left once I'm working with my assignment. Last thing I want to show you before we submit this exam is this little magic feature. So we have something called a reading guide. And this one can help students focus on a specific part of any document that the teacher has added to the exam. So as you can see here, I can pause my reading guide wherever I want and look at that specific formula and use that in my writing space. That's the reading guide. So now I feel like, yeah, I'm kind of satisfied with my submission. I don't know why I should be, because I haven't done anything. But let's say that the student is done and ready to submit. I click on this little send button. And before I actually click the submit assignment, I get an overview of what I've done, how many words I've written, and how many of the form questions I've answered. So when I feel satisfied, this looks good, I click on submit assignment. And what happens now is that it says assignment submitted, and I can no longer access this exam as a student. So I can't access my submission, and I cannot access the exam questions. So unless the teacher says I should regain the access, I won't be able to look at it again. All right, now I've shown you how to use Trelson for exams as a teacher as well as a student. Of course, there are a lot more things that you can do in Trelson. For example, as a teacher, provide feedback and assess these submissions, etc. So there's a lot for you to explore. But for now, let's head over and take a look at focus rooms in Trelson. What is a focus room? It's basically 4 walls that Trelson provides, preventing students from accessing distractions on their Chromebooks. So no ChatGPT, no YouTube, no messaging, no gaming, etc. And this is supposed to be used during regular class when students are, for example, working with a classroom assignment, working with Google Docs, taking part of any digital learning materials or videos online. Now I will show you how to use Google Classroom together with a focus room. So let's start off by clicking on Create and select Focus Room. So what I want to do now is synchronize this focus room with a Google Classroom. So I click on Synchronize and I select my classroom that I want to sync it with. So we have English grade 9. And then I have a few smaller settings that I can enable if I like, but for now, let's just keep it this way. And I click on Create. And now Trelson is synchronizing this focus room with the classroom that we selected. And that means importing students from that focus room and checking what assignments are in that classroom. And boom, now we're ready. We have the name of this focus room here, English grade 9. It automatically uses the classroom name that you synced it with. And right now, it's not open for students. You can see here, it says it's red. And if I click on this button, it turns green. And now my students can enter this focus room. And you can do that any point you want, if you want to prepare a little bit beforehand, or just let them come in whilst you're preparing. What you're looking at here is a digital whiteboard. This whiteboard is something that will be shown on the student devices as well as your teacher device. And if you'd like to, you can bring it up to full screen and share it in the classroom, or you can just let the students look at it on their own devices. And what I can do here is change like the background color. I can put some text anywhere I want, instructions, or hang on, it's 20 minutes to lunchtime, or whatever it could be. And I can drag these text boxes anywhere I'd like and put timers on this board. Let's say I want my students to read something for 20 minutes. I click on play, and my students will see the time ticking down like this in a visual manner. And I can input any image or whatever I would like. Let's say I want to put, in this case, my students are going to be working with creating a persuasive speech. So I want them to get inspired. So I have a little image here that I will put on the board so that they feel inspired. And then I can enter some alt text like that. And I click on add. And here we go. So that's the class board, and you have a bunch of different tools to explore here. But if we head over to this segment where we have 3 lists, we have resource list, student list, and teacher list. Resource list, this is where I tell the system what is allowed to be done by the students when they are in this focus room. So I just click on the plus button here, and I can upload any file from my drive, add a YouTube video, or select Google services that my students are supposed to be able to work with. In this case, I want them to get access to a specific classroom assignment. So if I click on Classroom, below Google Services, and I can then select the assignment that I want my students to work with. And I click on it, crafting a persuasive speech, save. Now we've told the system that this resource is allowed and this won't be blocked when the students try to access it. You will see that later. If I click on this classroom assignment, a new tab appears here and we're jumping over to Google Classroom. You can see that the teacher here has inputted some instructions, but also added the Google Slides presentation and some links to websites that the students are allowed to use. These will automatically be allowed to be used by the student in the focus room, since our system scans this classroom assignment and says, okay, these links are fine, they can use them. Let's go back to Trelsom. That's the resource list, and here you can input anything you want, more or less. You can have Google Meet links, you can have a Chrome extension, for example, add a specific website directly to the focus room, or maybe add the GeoGebra calculator. Anything you'd like. Let's take a look at the student tab. Here, all of the students that are in this classroom, Google Classroom that is, will appear. And in this case, I only have one student, which is me. And if I'd like, I can go ahead and look closer at the student, see what they're working with in the focus room. Now, this specific student isn't inside the focus room yet, so let's wait with that before we take a look. If I want to add more students, I just click on the plus button here. Lastly, we have the Teachers tab. If I have more teachers with me in the classroom, Google Classroom that is, that I've synchronized this focus room with, that teacher will automatically be imported into the focus room and get the same access as I have as the owner of the focus room. Which is very good, because then someone can take a look and see if the students are inside the focus room while the other teacher is talking in front of the class, for example. Okay, now it's time for me to show you how it looks for a student when they're in the focus room. So I need to bring up my student device. Alrighty, I'm logged in as a student on my Chromebook. And now I've head over to Trelsom.com and logged in from the regular web browser. So currently I'm not in the kiosk mode, and that's how we connect to a focus room. So as you can see here, I have the assignment list, but I also have a tab called Focus Rooms. And if I head over there, I will see all of the focus rooms that are available to me as a student. And we have 2 available, which is Math Grade 8 and English Grade 9. So I will go and enter the Grade 9 one, and I click on Join. And what happens now, before I click on Join, I want to show you, let's try and open Snapchat, for example. Okay, if I join, Focus Rooms will automatically close any other tab that has been open before joining the focus room. So boom, you saw it disappear there. And what I can see now is, first off, the digital whiteboard that my teacher controls. Second off, we have the list of resources. And just for demonstration regarding the digital whiteboard, let me show you what happens if a teacher moves something on the whiteboard. So now I'm dragging the image and it moves in real time. I'm gonna drag the timer as well and put it there. There you see. So anything that the teacher does on the whiteboard will automatically be reflected immediately on the student device. So for this resource list, I can see that there's a classroom assignment here. And if I click on it, I will be able to join Classroom and see the instructions and everything. But if I don't want to do that, and maybe I want to go over and try to open Snapchat instead, I'm blocked. All right, YouTube. No, I'm blocked. So I can't access anything else than what my teacher has said is allowed to access. And as you can see here, the teacher has inputted 2 different website links. Let's see if those works. Yes, they do. I also have a Google slide that I'm supposed to be working with for this exam. And as you can see here, the slide opens perfectly. But if I would like to try and access the rest of Google Slides, I'm not going to be allowed to. So my access is limited to this specific document that the teacher has shared with me. Whilst I am restricted to that specific document in this focus room, if the teacher would like students to have full access to Google Slides, for example, I can just, as a teacher, add that service in its entirety. So as you can see here, we got Google Slide popped up here. And if I click on it, I get full access to Google Slides, the entirety of it. So I can create a new presentation, how many presentations I want. And if I want to, as a teacher, I can also add things like a GeoGebra calculator. And I'm doing that as we speak on my teacher device. And I click on Add, and it will immediately appear in the student resource list here. There we are. This is basically exactly what Focus Room does. So in this case, the student is not conducting the exam or assignment inside Trellson's writing space or answering Trellson form question. You're working with regular tools such as Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, etc., or other websites, videos, educational videos, whatever it might be, but without the digital distractions that comes with Chromebooks. So the idea here is to be inside this focus room for as long as the student is working with this classroom assignment. But when it's time to leave, they can click on this little X button. And what happens here is that the student is requested to actually think through, do I really want to leave this focus room? I know that my teacher will be notified. Do I dare or do I stay? So in this case, yes, I want to leave because it's time to wrap up this demo. So let's click on yes, I want to leave. Trellson is being used for low stakes and high stakes exams all over the world. And it of course has a lot more to offer than I've been able to show you today. We have a bunch of accessibility tools. You can give feedback and work in iterative processes using Trellson, etc. But to summarize, Trellson helps Chromebook become the actual learning tool that we know that they can be if we just remove the distractions and potentially the cheating parts as well. If you want to know more, head over to our website trellson.com. Thank you for watching.